Mirai's actions were quite strange. After just a single glance from his young master, Jack, he claimed to have archery skills. The strange part? He had never touched a bow before, but when he picked up the bow, it was a miracle, he hit every shot. It turns out that Jack had originally been an office worker on Earth. One day, on his way to work, he suddenly collapsed and died at the door. When he woke up again, he found himself in a different world, now an infant. 3 years later, Jack had accepted the fact that he had reincarnated. Jack had a special ability. When he used the identification skill on someone, he could learn their name and all their skills. The man named Mirai had always focused on training with a spear, but when Jack used his skill on him, he discovered that Mirai had an impressive B-level talent in archery. So, when Mirai picked up a bow for the first time, he managed to hit every shot, even though it was his first attempt. Everyone was curious about how Jack knew about Mirai's archery talent. Jack could only brush it off, saying it was his intuition. At dinner, Jack's father praised him and told him to hone this intuition. Jack understood why his father said this, for the world they lived in was not peaceful. Their country was the Samaphos Empire, which was deeply corrupt. The common people were suffering, and peasant uprisings were common. To suppress the rebellions, local lords strengthened their control and kept private armies. The empire did nothing to stop this. Jack had a feeling that the empire would eventually fall, and a large-scale war would likely break out. As a lord, Jack knew he would have to lead his army to protect his territory. Thinking about the heavy responsibility on his shoulders, Jack went to the town. He used identification on the people in the crowd, but the stats of the commoners were mostly average. Just then, Andy was kicked out of a shop. Andy was a Marga, and Marga people were mostly slaves, so others often treated him poorly. Seeing this, Jack gave him a loaf of bread. When the others saw that it was the Lord's son, they didn't question it. But at that moment, Jack used identification on Andy. The overwhelming talent Andy had nearly made Jack drop his jaw. So Jack followed Andy and asked if he would like to become his subordinate. Although Andy was grateful to Jack, he knew that his status would bring trouble to Jack, so he initially refused. But in the end, Andy still agreed to follow Jack back to the manor. Jack immediately brought over a chair and invited Andy to eat with him. Through conversation, Jack learned that Andy had originally been a member of a mercenary group, but when everyone in the group had died in battle, Andy had been wandering alone ever since. At first, Andy thought Jack was just showing him kindness, but when he learned that Jack wanted him to become a retainer, the butler quickly reported this to Jack's father. At first, Jack's father rejected Andy outright upon seeing that he was a Marga. He even said, "Looks like your judgment as a lord isn't so great." But Jack stood his ground, insisting that Andy had extraordinary talent. Seeing Jack's determination, his father decided to test Andy. He would personally battle Andy, with both of them using wooden swords, and the match would last for a set time. After exchanging names, Jack's father charged at Andy. The pressure from his father in that moment was so intense that it seemed even a wooden sword would snap. Andy quickly dodged, but Jack's father relentlessly pursued him, soon knocking Andy to the ground. Andy felt like he was on the verge of collapsing, but when he saw the concerned look on Jack's face, he gathered his strength and got back up. After that blow, Jack's father declared, "It's over." But the time limit hadn't even arrived yet. It turned out that during the previous strike, Andy's wooden sword had grazed his father's hair. Jack's father admitted that Andy certainly had swordsmanship talent. From that point on, Andy put on the butler's clothes and took on servant duties willingly, because he wanted to help Jack as much as he could. He knew deep down that without Jack's help, he would have probably starved to death in the streets by now.